Hello, everybody. This slow motion here. Now, today we're gonna, or at least for this podcast, we're gonna do something a little bit different. And by the way, you're listening to the Everything Science podcast. But anywho, we are going to be reviewing, or I'm gonna give my thoughts on Jacob the Liar, which is a film that had Robin Williams in it. He was the lead role in the film. It was, I gotta say, it was one of his good ones. It was. You don't really hear about this film very often. It's probably because he's done so many. But Jacob the Liar is essentially about a community of Jews in the ghetto during World War II. Now, Jacob is, or used to, run a cafe over in the ghetto or the neighborhood where he lived before the Nazis came over and took over and everything went to hell. And so the movie kind of starts off with, his friend who's a barber who's going to kill himself, and then him, going over to him and lying, saying that, or him trying to persuade him not to by saying, "Hey, can you give me a shave?" Because they had this agreement where if he gives him a shave, then he can get all the pancakes he can eat. Of course, these pancakes were made out of potatoes because you can make potato pancakes, and since they're really poor and in the ghetto because of the Nazis, he can't necessarily make those pancakes or have the ingredients to make them. Well, any hoodle. After that, he gets called off. He gets After he gets done with that, he goes over and he gets caught after curfew, or like a little bit of or a few minutes before curfew, which is 8 o'clock, and the Nazis direct him over to the officer who is managing the whole ghetto. And while he was there, talking to the, Nazi, manager, he overhears his radio, the Nazi manager's radio, saying that Russian troops were fighting the Nazis in a nearby city about 400 kilometers away, which is, I'm American, so I can't really tell, but apparently that's close. And this to Jacob, is very good, and he's really ecstatic about it because he's like, oh my god, Russians are almost here, we'll probably be liberated from all these Nazis. Yeah! Woo! But, and when you think about this though, and I know you're probably thinking, wait a minute, Russians, that's not very, that I don't see how that's better. Well, at any point, if you're a Jew and you're under Nazi rule, anything is better than Nazis at that point, even the Russians, no matter how, harsh and brutal they were. Anyway, so after the manager releases him and tells him to go back and lets him off with like a warning, um, the he goes back and he sleeps till the next day, and then it goes and it cuts to a scene where he's working in the labor camps, mining, or not mining, more so, packing supplies up into the train. And while they're doing this, there's a whole bunch of music going on. They have this, like, you can tell it's kind of like a routine. And so after that, he goes over and he partners up with one of his dear friends. I forget his name, but it was played by the same actor who played, if you ever watched X-Men Origins Wolverine, the really bad one. He played the same. It was the actor who played Sabretooth. And so he partners up with him, and they start doing their work until, his partner kind of, Sabretooth, let's just call him Sabretooth, Sabretooth pretty much goes off from the pack and starts to hide, and Jacob goes over. He's like, "Hey man, you gotta keep on working, or else you're gonna get shot." So Jacob, he's concentrating. He's just like, and then Sabretooth is just like, "What's the use? I mean, no one's gonna really save us, and it's kind of a shithole anyway. Might as well go out with a bang, right?" So Jacob decides from that point on that he's gonna lie and say that the Russians are already on their way. They're 400 kilometers away, which is kind of a truth, and that they're winning, and that they're gonna be here. They're gonna be here any day now. And so this Sabretooth, this makes to Sabretooth, this is like music to his ears. And so he's just like, "Wait a minute, Jacob, how do you know this?" And he's like, "I don't." And Jacob repeatedly says, "I don't know this." And then Sabretooth is like, "Oh, you have a radio, don't you?" And then Jacob's is like, "Shut up." So essentially, Jacob's trying to get him to think he has a radio by saying he doesn't have a radio, which Sabretooth kind of catches on to and starts to believe that he does have a radio. And so, of course, Sabretooth is kind of like a little gossip, and he goes around and he starts telling everybody about or that Jacob has a radio. So, Jacob continues to lie. He continues to lie. He keeps on lying in order to inspire hope into all of the other Jews so that they can hang in there. And it's just this big game of him lying, and trying not to trip up so that nobody really figures it out at all. And this goes on until the very end. And the end is very sad, I gotta say. Just gonna prepare you. Other than that, I am not going to ruin any more for you. I will say that, Jacob the Liar was one of Robin Williams' better films. I think that, it should get more credit than it did. I mean, it had a good plot to it. I really did like the plot. One of my favorite quotes from there and jokes is in the beginning of the movie. It goes to Jacob and he says, Hitler went to a fortune teller and asked, "Fortune teller, when am I going to die?" And the fortune teller turns to Hitler and says, "You are going to die on a Jewish holiday." And Hitler turns to the fortune teller and says, "How can this be?" And the fortune teller says, "Because, Hitler, any day you die is going to be a Jewish holiday." Which is literally, that's one of his funnier jokes in the middle and in the beginning of the movie. But no, it's packed with like little jokes here and there, but mostly it's sort of like the suspenseful, like, can he keep this lie going kind of drama sort of thing, and with a hint of comic relief here and there. But it's good, definitely. On a star scale, I'd say that I'd say I'd give it like a 4-star rating. That is what I would give it, honestly. But I'm sure, unlike Patch Adams. Anyway, that's irrelevant. Let's see. But no, yeah. I would say that the costumes that they had throughout the whole entire movie were really good. They're spot on. I know it's kind of weird, but I like it when a movie has good props and costumes to it, because it really adds to like the effect and feel of the movie, and it makes it feel authentic, And they really did a good job with that throughout the movie. Oh, and by the way, throughout the movie, he has this little girl who he harbors in his house, and it was played. I forget who she's played for. It's like some unknown like actor, but no, she acts pretty well, and she's a great character, and I'm sure you'll fall in love with her when you watch the movie. I'm kind of stickler for not giving away plot. Well, I'm kind of stickler for not spoiling movies too much. Like I like talking about them, but not doing it. But anyway, great movie. Definitely go and see it. If you haven't. If you have, then I would love to hear your responses here or there. If you are going to be watching this on YouTube, or I mean, listening to this on YouTube, or listening to this on Tumblr, or listening to this now, send me a comment. Anyway, this has been Slow Motion, and I will catch you on the flip.